I mean, we were so uneducated. The funny thing is, like, I understood addiction. I understood drugs. I just did not know alcohol. I'd never been around it.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't have a drunk uncle.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I didn't.
Yeah.
You know, my family's generations go on all the way back to bodyguards, to Joseph Smith. You know what I mean? So that just didn't happen in our house.
Yeah, no, I was basically born with a beer in my hand.
Yeah.
You know, I'm Hispanic, so it's so hard for us to get away from the stereotype, but it's true.
Funny.
I can say that.
Yeah.
I gotta live it.
Beer in your hand.
Moderation.
Beer in your bottle.
Moderation, literally.
Hey, they help you sleep. Don't they get, I think some people, I've heard of that, right? It helps them sleep better at night. They give them like a little teaspoon.
I'm not sure about that. I didn't do that with my brother, so that I knew of.
Little brandy on the gum. Night, little cough. Oh, I think you're getting a cough. Want a cough syrup?
Yeah. Are you teething?
Yeah, I think you might be teething when you cough.
Yeah.
So you mentioned like alcoholism. So
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So not alcoholism. So I think honestly what we, what's it called? I got alcohol psychosis. Alcohol psychosis is what I think more than alcoholism is what we were dealing with. And it's actually a new term that I'm just kind of learning and I haven't dug into it. So don't shaft me if I'm over-terming it, you know, public. But no, like, because he didn't over-drink or anything. He didn't like have to have a drink. He wouldn't have the shakes. He wasn't like, you know, I guess by terms of definition, if you have one drink a day, you're an alcoholic, right?
Yes.
So,
it depends who you talk to.
right. So
Yeah, even you can drink once a month, but if you over drink that one day a month, you're an alcoholic. You're a social alcoholic. You hear all the different terms.
social
Drinker.
Social drinker was where he was at. You know what I mean? It wasn't like that, but given the right moment, the right mood, the right time, the right experience, whatever went down, you know, it was really rough. It was rough. It would trigger him, and it brought him into different places that I had never seen before, you know. So it was rough. But my kids saw a lot of that. They heard a lot of that, and that's why we give them a lot of grace as they're older, and we still have a few at home, and you know, we get it. That can be rough on them. So, but that's been over 4.5 years almost since we've had I couldn't even comprehend living the way we lived. It was because we've been married. Today is the 20th. So we've been married almost 13 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
And
it's amazing. You got past a decade.
Yeah.
There we go.
And when you realize, like, there was a time when I was literally counting, and I ended up counting to 7 every year. It's been 1 year of hell. You know, the screaming and the yelling. If you've been there, you know, you've heard it.
Yeah.
And it's like, I just remember because I did it every year. 2 years of that. And then it was like 4 years of that. And then finally it was like, what the heck? How many more years am I going to do this? You know?
Yeah.
Like, and I think it's because it wasn't as bad in the first 5 years as the last 2 years. You know, we had now gone through COVID. He had taken in collecting, was it whiskey? Bourbon. He had taken a liking to bourbon, you know, the brown liquor.
I can't.
Never sicker.
But we didn't know, and I didn't know.
Mm-hmm.
And we were now in therapy, and our therapist was like, I got you guys. Alcohol. What are you talking about? Don't take away our alcohol. You know what I mean? I was just like, no, it's not alcohol. I literally said, no, it's not alcohol. No. And we went like that for a while. Like, I was in complete denial. And it's just, when I think back now, it's like, so many things. But once we recognized that, and I really didn't recognize it until I had read a book. It's called Codependent No More and Breaking the Chains, I think, or something. Yeah, anyways, he had given me a couple books to read. And when I went home and I read the books, it was the first time I could actually undeniably say, oh, crap. I have a problem and I have a right to have a problem and be upset about it. And I have a right to fix it. Take some action. Yeah. And I think like part of the reason I dealt with it for so long is because I had a high tolerance for BS, growing up in a somewhat difficult, environment, I was used to that because I wasn't through my first marriage. He was a teddy bear, but like my dad growing up, you never knew what you were going to get,
Yeah.
He's either giving you the shirt off his back or he's ripping it off your back.
Yeah. I know exactly what you mean. I get it. Totally get it.
So, but that's the torridness of life, I guess.
Yeah. Well, and you didn't understand, having not grown up with alcohol in your presence, that alcohol could be a facilitator of that. So it's probably just kind of like, that's why you're like, no, it's not that.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
right.
Well, that I had no clue. I had no clue. Like I can't tell you. I literally was like, no. I argued with the therapist, poor guy,
Yeah.
And now he's, if he ever comes across us, and be like, yeah, I told them. But we did eventually listen, and it did make a difference. It did make a difference. But anyways, so yeah, it was rough, and we continued to work through it, and till eventually I didn't, and it got so bad that littlest things of like a misunderstanding over a dog. Did it have short legs or long legs? I lost so much respect for myself, right? Like I just was like, how could I let this happen?
Totally get that.
For so long. And it's embarrassing, not too embarrassing. I'm kind of an open book when it comes to that kind of stuff. Like I'm not afraid to talk about my falls. I definitely have keys in my book that are private or personal, or maybe not mine entirely to share. After that, I knew I had to leave because he blew up my phone, did all that stuff. And it was just very rattling to me, and then to get up and go to work and act like nothing's wrong was,
that's tough.
Yeah. So by the end of that week, and probably because I was on the road that week and I had time to think, I ended up I call my mom, I'm like, Mom, I'm coming over. And that's really what started that. And that was June of 2021. And then I sold everything. Wow. Everything. Big part of this is that I sold everything, including our family home.
You were done.
He was not in any place to negotiate.
Yeah.
And I was not going to be held captive because he wouldn't let it go. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I wasn't going to have the thing to hold it over my shoulder.
Yeah.
Over my head.
Over your head. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm like, easy. Sail the boat
anymore.
Yep. Sail the boat.
I'm like that
sail
too.
The car. Not the car.
I've had to learn to try to not do that because I'm just like,
oh yeah. I paid hard, and truth be told, like my first home, I think my interest rate was it was before the really good interest rates. So I think we paid 6% or 8%. It was still, but we're talking $100,000 home at the time, right? Interest rates were still, but I've always been spoiled. I did not anticipate the interest rates to jump like they did.
Yeah.
And I just, yeah. So that's what really threw my game off.
Yeah. So sold everything. You didn't want to be.
Sold everything.
Any regret selling the home or anything like that?
Big time regret selling my home. We tried to get out of selling the home, in fact, because we'd even reconciled. Now it's 3 months later. It's September. And we, but that was too far gone.
Yeah. In contract. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sellers don't have a lot of rights going.
No, we had very little rights. And it was an all cash sale.
Yeah.
So they didn't give a crap.
Yeah.
And we were basically told by several lawyers, like, it's cash. You don't know how deep that goes, and you just don't want to go there.
Yeah.
So we said, okay, it is what it is.
That's my RV.
Fault. Yes. So, well, because I had my place at my mom's. My mom's, was really amazing and let me stay there. But, we needed some place for ourselves. We were going through a lot personally, and my poor mom probably had to listen to way more than she wanted to. Mm-hmm. So the RV was good for us in that way. It was scary for my therapist. He would be like, and you realize it's just the two of you in that tiny little tent, and I'd be like, right. We all think that it's invincible. Like,
did that make you guys come back together?
We did actually. So what we did is we bought an RV on my birthday of 21 still. Yeah. And we completely gutted it and renovated it.
Oh, fun.
So
fun project for you guys.
Oh, it's so much fun. And it was fun because he was setting goals. Like he wasn't going to cuss because at this point he was, really under control. He understood it was the alcohol and he was really trying to watch himself, and he had cut out like the hard alcohol. Right. And so it was fun because we really made it a challenge, and you'd be like, look, babe, I put this entire wall of placard up and I didn't even say a bad word, It was just like a big challenge, like, yes, baby steps, we got this,
Yeah.
But but that ended up being pretty crazy. I mean, picklebacks at 5, right? In an RV.
Yeah.
And we end up bouncing around a little bit and staying in different large, like Pachanga or I can't think of the other one now. What's the one over in Paula?
Moronga. Oh,
yeah.
Oh, there's so many around here.
Yeah. Anyways, so there's some really nice ones. So, but that's what we did. We just bounced around. We did that. We had a lot of fun. We'd go up and down the coast. We would go to Long Beach. We made fun of it with it. We did. We had a lot of fun. But at the same time, we were living our same old. Nothing had changed. Nothing had changed. And, I can imagine we were getting more and more frustrated with each other. And there was certain behaviors that I was seeing that were coming right back. And I was kind of like, now let's call this like January. Right. And so now I'm keenly aware, but what do you do? Right. Mm-hmm. And I think we had now connected. You were like one of my, good friends, mm-hmm. and we had friends again, and we were having fun. And it was like, everybody knows, okay, I'm going to talk about that because that was a big part of it. It was like, oh, we were so disconnected from the world for a little bit, and now we have friends again, and mm-hmm. it's fun. I don't want to break up the friendion, right? Like, but that eventually, when it's bad enough, you have to, and it was like, didn't matter what friends I lost and what friends I got to keep. And it just had to make the decision for myself what to do. And now it's like April 2nd, right? We had already had the little dog fight about long leg, short leg. Okay. Right? It got pretty aggressive. And he, threw my stuff from back of the RV to the front of the RV, and there was stuff everywhere. And anyways, so I froze. For some reason, that day when we were over the dog fight, I froze and I didn't leave. I stayed. Like, you can imagine, my stuff's shoveled everywhere. He was beyond aggressive. Like, mm-hmm. Why did I stay? Like, what is wrong with me? But I also promised myself I would never do that again.
Yeah.
So I made a plan. And in my head, I started building documents, finding all my tax documents, all my, anything I needed, bank statements, birth certificates, my kids' stuff, anything that I needed.
Yeah.
I just made sure, I just started collecting it and putting it in like my shoebox, which I knew I'd be grabbing that, very discreetly because he would never notice that. But I made a plan. Long story short, I made a plan. And I made a plan to be able to do a quick exit because I had a lot of stuff in the RV. And believe it or not, I got everything of mine out in a 4-door sedan and my 3 dogs.
Nice.
Everything.
I applaud you for that. I applaud you for that.
You're so good like that.
Minus the blow driver. I left him the blow dryer. No, yeah. And that night was the night he got his biggest lesson.